Hey there, my name's Bubbles, and I wanted to make a video talking about some steps that I take to assess damage to my EUC's rim and tire. I see a lot of people kind of talking about what sounds like what might be rim damage or tire damage. I hear very few people actually talking about tire damage, especially sidewall tire damage on our EUCs. And so in a minute here, I'm going to turn around the camera and show you my my OG veteran links, and some steps that I take to diagnose it. I currently have a little bit of rim damage and a little bit of tire damage. I'm going to show you how I diagnose it. It's really easy. But before I hop into that, let's talk about why do I have credentials for this, and let's talk real briefly about tires, but try to keep it short. So I'm not a little guy. I weigh about 209 pounds. I weigh about 235 with all of my protective gear, so I roll kind of heavy, but I also shred it. I shred super hard. I like hitting big jumps. Recently, my buddies and I were hitting a 43 to 45 foot gap jump. It's a pretty big jump on an EUC. I sometimes win races with the Amped Electric Game race circuit. So I ride hard, I shred hard, and locally we have a very rocky terrain that I ride on near Austin, Texas. So my EUC is hitting a lot of rocks. So between being big and shredding hard, I frequently will damage rims a little bit. I go through a lot of tires. My tires will fail with sidewall failures, usually before I wear out the tread. And I think this might be more common than what we talk about and are familiar with in the industry. So I'm staying here a little bit longer, but in a second I'm gonna turn around the camera and show you my own wheel and what I do to assess this, right? Let's talk about tire construction real quick first though. And I could go on and on and on. It's really hard for me to keep this dense, brief, but tires have a roundness profile, they have sidewalls, and they have a bead where the rim, if this is the metal rim, where the tire connects to it. And all these are various factors. Tires also have a weight rating, and spoiler alert here, EUC tires are almost universally underrated for weight. Most of the EUC tires have a weight rating of about 230 pounds. If your EUC weighs, let's just call it 100 pounds, even that's a little high, it might be 80 to 100 pounds, and you weigh 150 pounds, you already have exceeded the weight limit for 99, I think every EUC tire currently on the market. So everybody is already abusing their tires the moment they step onto their wheels. These tires were made for crappy little Chinese scooters, not dudes out there shredding hard, not dudes hitting 40-foot jumps. So the abuse that we put on our tires not only exceeds the tire weight rating, but it exceeds the manufacturer expectations, right? I used to ride the Shinko tires, especially the Shinko 241. I really like the tire. The Shinko 241 has a very flat roundness profile. So the roundness of the tire where it hits the ground, that roundness profile, the 241 has a very flat tire. That tire was also made, it was designed for trials motorcycles. If you're not familiar, those are those guys that hop up on a wheeling, they jump from rock to rock on obstacles and never put their feet down. Trials tires are designed to have soft sidewalls that run at a lower air pressure, so they squish and the tire wraps around obstacles, giving the motorcycle better grip. My last 4 Shinko tires all failed with failures on the sidewall with bubbles forming. We'll hop to that here in just a second. So I now currently ride a TNT J1216. The TNT tire has a very round, a comparatively more roundness profile. So it feels a little more tweaky. It turns, it leans faster into turns. It's a less stable feeling tire, but it also is more nimble. It's more agile. What I like about the TNT is, one, it's rated for tubeless tires, has a heavily reinforced bead at the top of the tire, and the sidewalls and the carcass construction is significantly stronger than the Shinko tires. I'm currently running a TNT tire, and I'm going to show you sidewall compromise on my current tire here. In fact, this might be a good time to hop to it. Here's what happens. When the tire squishes, when we hit a rock and the tire squishes, the sidewalls squish, and they aren't designed to flex a lot. If we happen to pinch it, we can damage it. There's threads and fibers, like nylon threads that go around the tire to help reinforce it, because rubber is squishy, right? It won't hold its shape on its own. And if we hit the sidewall or if we squish it too hard, the fibers inside the tire can break. They call that thread separation. And when that happens, the tire, which would normally have a flat sidewall, will start to bulge out. My last couple Shinko tires experienced this so hard that the bubble on the side of the tire was rubbing on the inside of my battery boxes. The other thing that can happen is with the roundness profile, if a bubble starts to form here, it will pull the tire, so instead of being round, it's oblong, but just in a spot. So when you roll, you can get a wonk, wonk, wonk. We can feel that consistently. You throw into the mix also, the EUCs are kind of a niche tire that most tires are made for bulk markets of motorcycles, cars, various other power sports. In the whole world of tires, not very many tires are made for EUC. So the quality control for these tires is low to begin with. Even when everything's perfect, tires, the center line of the tire frequently wobbles. It's like the tires are not made symmetrically. The tires that we have access to for EUCs aren't really good tires. But that can be another video another time. Let's take a look at what I do on my EUC now. All right, this part should be relatively easy. I like to have a paint pen in hand. I'll put my finger on somewhere close to the rim where I don't have to move it, where I can close my eyes and I can be sure that I'm not moving my hand around. And then I spin the wheel by hand and I feel. This is a really easy way to do this, right? So here I'm testing the rim. I'm not touching the motor, I'm not touching the inside, I'm touching the side part of the bead of the rim, the lip of the rim here. So right here, I have a little high spot. This is sticking out about 1 millimeter. And so I take my paint pen, I'll put a little spot there. Later I can come back with a hammer if I want, and a piece of wood, and make it more round. I also have a Jaws of Life hydraulic tool that will spread out a little bit if I need to. I straighten my rims all the time. In fact, if you look carefully, between each spoke, these are actually not very round anymore. Each one is a little bit banged in. So after I go all the way around, marking the rim, it's at the rim, you see the rim's actually pretty straight. And it's hard to tell, but the tire is not. So now I'm gonna put my finger where I'm touching the tire. Right here, there's a little bit of a high spot. Right here, there's a little bit of a high spot. Right here, there's a big high spot. So let's focus on this right here. It's really kind of hard to see, but this actually sticks out from the low part of the rim about 4 millimeters. I put an X here so I can come back and identify that easily. Now for the tread pattern, it's a little hard to see from here, but this part of the tread is sticking out a little bit more, and that's contributing. When I roll on smooth pavement, I can feel this. There's a whomp, whomp, whomp with each tire rotation. Let's look at the other side. Same thing, right? I put my finger on the rim. There's a little bit of a ding here. So I start with the rim, and again, it's like 0.5 millimeter sticking out here. My rim, all things considered, is pretty straight right now. And then I'm gonna put on the tire sidewall. This right here is sticking out about 3 millimeters. And again, it might be kind of hard to see. I already marked it with the pen, right? So I'm having tread separation right here on the right side and right here on the left side. They aren't in the same place. And so the tire has this effect happening with each rotation. This tread separation, I probably could ride this tire a little bit longer, especially in off-road scenarios, but on the pavement, it's gonna be really annoying to me. What that translates for me is it's time for me to order a new tire, and whenever it shows up and gets around, it's not an emergency, but pretty quickly, I'm gonna wanna replace this tire, even though I've only gone about halfway through its tread depth wear. All right, well, that was a little bit longer than I was planning. I think it's valuable information. And again, I see a lot of people talking about and describing situations where they're talking about the rims, but I see very few people talking about tread separation scenarios on their tires. And I think it happens a lot more often than it's given credit. I think if we have people who start closely looking at their tires, that we're gonna see a lot of people are experiencing bulging on their sidewalls. A lot of people, if they start looking closely, will see that the center line of their tire, even though it's mounted correctly, the molding from the manufacturer does not have the center line correct, which gives the tire a wandering feeling. You know, it's a good starting point. Thanks for looking. Hope it can help you have a bigger picture of things to think about while you're thinking about ways to improve, repair, or identify problems with your EUC. Thanks. Bye-bye.